All right, today we have a pretty interesting conversation. We have Josh Bar-Yadin, who's out of Texas, who's a seasoned investor in the real estate space, either creating deals or making them happen. And we're going to go through a little bit of what we're seeing in the industrial flex space today. We're going to touch base on Forum Flex, one of the new deals that we have. So, Josh, thanks for joining us today and spending some time kicking around ideas with us.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Look
Yeah,
forward to connecting and collaborating like we've been doing the past few years. So thanks for having
yeah,
me.
cool. So, Josh, we've known you for a while. Josh on the other side right here, the Texas connection of investors. So looked at a bunch of deals that you've done over the years that are in Texas, and you've been in the industrial space a lot longer than we have, and the more commercial real estate space than we have, as we've started finding opportunities where we can continue to renovate or add value and change things around. Like Forum Flex here, we're doing a office conversion to industrial, taking vacant office, turning it industrial. But Josh, tell us a little bit about the industrial stuff that you guys have done over the years. Where have you found things that have been most interesting?
Yeah, no, absolutely. The first deal that we bought was in Dallas. Actually about 10 years ago today. So we bought a light industrial deal in Dallas. It was a one-off market, off-market deal. Rents were about 250 a foot then, and we underwrote at that time in 2013 no rent growth because we didn't know where the market was, and it was 75% vacant or 75% leased. The rest of the market was kind of slow at that time, kind of coming out of the recession. It didn't really take off until probably 2015, 2016. And slowly those rents crept up to $3, $3.50, and then they started growing 10, 15% a year in 2017, 2018. So those 250 rents 10 years ago are now 950, 10, 1050, and the market's 95, 98% leased. So buying that property led us to getting into a little bit more and more. I'm heavy in Dallas, heavy in San Antonio. But we're looking for flex industrial deals. We like infill. We like that light value add, whether it's a conversion from office to flex or just mismanaged or looking to enjoy the market appreciation on these rents.
Do you see market rents continuing to go up in the deals you're in, or is it still because it's aggressive on occupancy right now? Everything's occupied. What are you seeing with market rents?
Yeah, it's interesting because market rents on the light industrial flex are still very strong. We hear about apartment rents kind of flattening out and office rents probably going the other way and been dropping the last year or two. The light industrial rents are still going up, 4, 5, 6, 7%. We're still underwriting and achieving 3.5 to 4% annual increases on leases signed. And on the flex side, it's kind of a similar story, maybe toned down a little bit, maybe not quite as aggressive, but we're still getting 3.5% rent bumps on new leases, and vacancies are still very low.
Yeah. So over the years, you've bought a handful of buildings that were either office conversions into industrial flex, or they were vacant industrial flex buildings. Tell us about really the improvements that you had to make, the amount, maybe the dollar per square foot improvements, and the time it took to really lease those up.
Yeah, absolutely. I think right now we have one project that's very similar. We bought it about a year ago. It's about 150,000 square feet. It had an office call center that took about 120,000 square feet. They downsized about 90,000 square feet, and that space is still vacant. But the ownership, and we knew that they were vacating. So really the play is, do we try and lease it up as office, which there's very little demand, or do we peel back a lot of the warehouse and create like a flex industrial use? And there's a couple benefits to that. One, there's much stronger demand. Instead of going into a project that is office that's 80% leased and trending downward, you convert it to a project that's industrial or flex that's 90 to 95% leased. So you get a lot more demand, and then the cap rate on the exit is going to be a lot lower on the flex industrial, and there's a lot more demand. So it's kind of an easy play when you find those right opportunities, which are unfortunately very tough to find because they work out very well. So, when we go in and do that and know that we have to peel back, 50% of that office finish out, it usually takes about $15 to $20 a foot. But you spend that one time and then going forward, your TIs are a lot lower than having a 100% finished, building. So for this particular deal, that office tenant moved out about 8-9 months ago. We're in leases or LOI negotiation with probably 80% of the vacancy. Rates are higher than we underwrote. We underwrote, I think, 850, and we're trending towards 950 to 975 right now over the last, 18 months. Pretty strong growth and strong demand. On the leasing front, tons of inquiries. This is a very infill project with a lot of other industrial and flex used around it, and there's just not a lot of product out there. These groups looking for 25, 40, 45,000 square feet, they don't have a lot of options. So it kind of plays into supply and demand. There's not a lot of demand for office, but a lot of demand for this flex industrial product.
And are you dividing stuff up ahead of time, or are you saying we're going to take this space, we're going to open it all up and see what people take?
That's a big part of the plan. The first thing that is really important is kind of show what you can do, right? Before the tenant moves out, that you're going to take back quite a bit to warehouse. So creating floor plans to market it up front is really critical. That way we could sell and show the story before actually having to spend the money. But we usually will spec out, a couple different ways and just open up the warehouse without really demising it, and just kind of showing, well, do you guys need 20,000 square feet? Do you need 40,000 square feet? You tell us where the demising line would go, and then we'll have this nice, marketing plan to show this is what you all can do. This is what it would look like.
Yeah,
and it works. I think a lot of the tenants understand that as long as they can see the warehouse and look up and see, how high the ceilings are.
What's in the Dallas market when you're looking at some of this older stuff, new warehouses, if you got 35-foot heights, we're obviously not finding that with old renovated product, but what are the standard heights that you're looking at when you're saying, hey, we could turn this building into something? Like, what do you want to see?
There's really no magic number, because every user is a little bit different. Typically the bigger users and the dock high clear height is more important. But when you have grade level, as long as they could pull in their trucks or vehicles or put some racking in there, they're usually okay on the flex side. It's really the larger dock high bulk logistics distribution that really care if they're getting 24 or 28 or 32 clear height.
So in our market, we've seen very similar things, that we're seeing kind of a sweet spot in kind of the roughly 5,000 square foot tenant that, you kind of white box a space, have a relatively basic office in the front, kind of an 80-20 ratio, 80% warehouse, 20% office, that leases really aggressively. There's minimal TI that the tenant asks for once it's white boxed, and there's basically no free rent, and we're getting top of market pricing. Are you seeing kind of a similar thing for that size range?
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing the same thing there. Those smaller spaces, tenants typically need them tomorrow or 2 weeks from now. And they lease very well. And there's only so many changes you could do when you have, a couple offices, conference room, and restroom. So typical make ready is pretty much all the TIs we need. And what's really great about that product type is they're reusable. You just need to make sure they're clean from when, tenants, turn over. But when you get into the bigger spaces and you have, 20, 30, 40,000 square feet and, 5, 10,000, 15,000 square feet of office, typically you have a little bit more TIs to put into it. Those tenants want a little bit more customization to their business. And those deals also take longer. They're a little bit more sophisticated, and they'll look, 3, 6, 9, 12 months out. So those deals will take a little bit more time to manufacture, and there's a little bit more downtime from, collecting rent from the expiring tenant to the new tenant versus the smaller spaces.
Yeah. We're looking at the Forum Flex deal that we have under contract, and we're aiming up our closing on that one. And that's an example. It's 130,000 square feet. We've got 74,000 square feet that's vacant. And you've looked at this deal before too, so you've got a pretty good idea of what it is. But if you think, hey, we've got 74,000 square feet vacant, our approach is going in and just demoing all of that vacant space and turn it into flex, and then allowing tenants to kind of pick and choose like how much space they need and where do we want to divide this thing up. Is that how you've gone about your build outs too, or you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because when you have that much bulk space available, you always want to kind of show the product, but you also can't guess that, oh, I'm going to get a 30,000 square foot tenant. Let me devise it there. But you also you want to show them the product. That's exactly that's the right play.
Yeah. We're going through and doing this and keeping a little bit of office up front based on just kind of what fits and what's there. So the inside is, it's just a concrete floor with a metal roof that's on the side of it. How do you assess build quality of an asset going into it? Because we're always trying to say if we get single story, we want to see brick exteriors. We want to make sure we have good curbing and strong parking lots. We don't want gravel parking lots. So we're trying to buy what we believe is a nicer product. But then you've got an industrial type user that's coming in. And have you seen that that's important when you're looking at it, or how are you assessing that build quality when you look at a deal?
No, that's really important. For this deal being 20, 25 years old, it's a different vintage than the 70s and 80s product. It goes a long way when showing it to tenants, because a lot of tenants, that size that you're talking about, that 15, 20, 30,000 square feet, image is important. And to go in with a traditional red brick building or a dime a dozen look, this is a great looking facade, and it does attract a little bit more higher quality tenant, and you will get a little bit more looks and more attention, and typically will turn into another 50 cents or a dollar in rent compared to the older project.
Yeah. What do you think from a leasing standpoint? Our turnaround times are pretty quick when we're saying, hey, we're just going to go in and demo out stuff that's there. And if there's a good layout for office, we're going to leave it. So our time is pretty quick. But if you're looking at underwriting, how fast do you think stuff would lease up in your market? Because we've got about 9 months here planned to lease everything up.
About 6 months to kind of do the work and then 9 months to finish the leasing. Yeah.
Yeah. 9 months is pretty standard. These longer deals, even if you find a tenant, there's still the time to, like you said, build it out, negotiate a lease. And these tenants typically look out, 6, 9, 12 months out. So it does take about that time, but the demand is there.
So Josh, how we generally self-manage and operate the properties, and then we outsource leasing and work with really leasing partners in the market, like a CBRE or a JLL or some of the other bigger shops. Tell us about how you guys operate in that fashion.
Yeah, we're very similar. We believe third-party leasing and working with the CBREs and JLLs. They're the experts in the market. They're in the deal flow. They have their corporate, they have their national, regional pool of deal flow, and it's nothing that some of the smaller companies could really compete with, especially on the higher quality product. So yeah, we operate very similar to you all at Greenleaf.
Yeah. So I mean, our operating platform, we'll handle maintenance issues, we'll handle the property management side, but those leasing and new relationships. Typically, any tenant we have that's coming in is going to be bringing a broker unless they're maybe under 2,500, 3,500 square feet occasionally. But for the most part, that business is going to have an agent broker working with them, trying to find them the space. Occasionally, there's bigger ones that, hey, they need to move in right now, and they might not have a broker in making that decision or doing it, but typically they're very involved and kind of just helps make sure we get a consistent lease product too out of stuff, which is beneficial.
Yeah, we love those. They just don't happen very often that, hey, we need to get in 2 weeks. We don't have a broker. Send us lease without lease comments. We do get a lot more of those on the 2,500 square foot spaces, but yeah, not as often on the larger ones. So yeah, Texas market's pretty similar.
Yeah. So we look at our price here. So we're buying this deal at $85 a square foot for over 130,000 square feet. That's where we're at. And we kind of assess this as just, that's our price for the whole thing. We get 14 acres. We've got 2 different buildings. We have good build quality, parking lots and structures are all in good shape. And we know we're going to spend around 10 to 15 to demo and clear things out. Does that line up kind of your numbers on stuff?
Yeah. Well, first of all, the 85 foot is amazing. Those sub $100 foot deals are very tough to find in Texas, and especially for that vintage construction. Yeah, the clearing out of the warehouse, it all depends on how much you're taking back. But yeah, we're usually in that $15 a foot range just to clear out the warehouse. When you start taking out ceilings, you're redoing the lighting, redoing the mechanical. Typically have some plumbing runs that you need to kind of move around that were covered up by the ceiling. But yeah, $15 a foot is kind of on par with what we're doing here in San Antonio and Dallas too.
Yeah, very cool. What else you want to go through on this one? We kind of covered all the main bases here. Josh and I are like right next to each other, but sort of right next to each other. So I can look over here and see him, but he's just different spot. So, but I mean, yeah, overall, this deal, we really like these opportunities where we can take something and reposition it into something else. You mentioned it too, Josh. We're taking something that's in a lower demand market like office and converting it to a higher demand space like flex. I mean, that helps us on rental rates. It helps on exit caps, and it helps on financing. We get a lot better financing with flex versus office. So,
yeah,
Josh,
same here. Yeah, we don't get a lot of demand for office debt, and what we've been hearing in the market is it's very tight. But the industrial, it's still good for lenders, those that are actually out there giving money away.
What kind of market rates are you seeing on flex stuff if from an interest in a debt perspective?
You're talking rental rates, or you're talking like interest rates?
No, for like interest rates on debt for industrial side.
Oh, interest. Yeah, it's still, well, what you asked me today versus 2 weeks ago is also very different. We're refinancing one project. Right now, we just swapped a deal like mid sixes for an industrial flex project. A month ago, I think we're low sixes for a similar type deal. It moves very quickly from week to week, and it's all about expectations. But I think right now, fixed rate, 5 years, mid sixes.
Yep. So they're higher, but if the deals work, it's good.
Yep. Josh, how are you seeing rental rates by you? In our market, we're seeing kind of on the lower end, for a newly built out space around $10 a square foot. On the higher end, we've seen as high as 14. On this product, where the current leases in place are 14. We're going in modeling wise, we're modeling $12 a square foot. So basically offering incentives to lease more aggressively. Yeah. But what do you see in your market?
For this product type, it's probably very similar. The building I mentioned earlier that's going through a conversion, it's 1980s product, but the lease size, the suite size, the building size, it's very infill. It has a dock high space, and we're getting probably about $9.50 to $10 a foot on that one. Again, that one's dock high. It's a little bit more industrial than I think this product. A little bit more flex, but right down the street, I have a product similar vintage, 12,000, 20,000 square foot spaces, and those are about $12.50 rent.
Yeah, sounds comparable. Yeah.
So yeah, it's very comparable. So talking about like price per foot, you're renting, construction, it's pretty similar to what we're seeing down here.
Yeah. Yeah, we always go back and forth and looking at, Josh grew up in Dallas, so we're looking at what does Dallas look like? What does Texas market look like compared to Atlanta? We only have one city that's crazy in size. Texas has got a few of them, but yeah, we appreciate the insight of looking into your market and see what you're seeing and comparing that to the deals we're working on here. So it's always good talking and good catching up. And thank you for the insight into Forum Flex and going through it with us.
Absolutely. Great looking deal. Wish you all the best of luck and look forward to the success on that one.
Cool.
All
right. Thanks, Josh.
All right. Take care.
For more tips on operating and investing in real estate, please check us out at greenleafmanagement.com or find us on YouTube and Spotify.